sort of just opening up the final discussion session, there's, I think, one more question for Kaunain that I just quickly want to follow up with on the open contracting for infrastructure data standards that are being developed. Yeah, now the question is gone. While I'm reading it, and the question of how does this fit into your work that you do? Do you engage with them? Are they sort of complementary? Are you aware of them? How are you working with some of the other stakeholders that are maybe looking at very specifics in certain industry sectors?
Thanks so much. Yes, absolutely. So we do work quite a bit with Open Contracting Partnership. We work with Open Spending EU Coalition, for instance, and we approach this integrity pacts from two perspectives. So as I mentioned, we have several strategic objectives. I take care of business integrity, but we also have one on protecting public resources, and we actually have a public procurement specialist who is working with these allies that we have on open contracting. And I think the open contracting for infrastructure data standards are also mentioned in our new Integrity Pact blueprint that will be coming out shortly. And open contracting is great. It serves a different purpose. I mean, we all need open contracting, which also is one of the precursors to being able to select those specific projects, that are high risk, high value, that an integrity pact could be applied to. So just to mention that an integrity pact is not meant for all projects under the sun. We're not saying that every project needs to be monitored, but those ones that that are in a high risk sector or have a high value, I think that can be applied to. So I think it's complementary approaches, and these standards are definitely mentioned in the blueprint that will be coming forth. And if you would like to be in touch with our public procurement specialist who's working with on open contracting, happy to put you in touch as well.
Thank you so much, Kaunain. I wanted to maybe bring Paul in again here on the question of AI, because you're obviously working sort of from a really rigorous methodology in terms of assessing ethical culture. How has that topic come up in your discussions? And I mean, just hearing from Nils as well, maybe a little bit your feedback on where Ethics Institute is or your work is in the way you're seeing the potential risk or opportunities there.
All right, yeah, I think there's quite a lot that we have dealt with regarding artificial intelligence. And I saw the question earlier where someone indicated that maybe AI could be used to, instead of, let's say, using a survey or something similar. The only problem is that most AIs that are used often obtain insight about an organization through the narrative data that organization provides, right? So that narrative data is produced by the humans within that organization. So there are usually two ways of obtaining insight: the qualitative kind of side of it, where I think AI is very useful. And we at the Ethics Institute actually have trained an LLM to help us to actually analyze large amounts of comments that employees may make, but even the minutes of meetings, integrated reports, documents that clients, that organizations are producing that give us a good sentiment, an idea of what's going on in the organization and what risks they are dealing with. And that is a very useful way of obtaining insight. But you also have to pair that with something that can be generalized. And unfortunately, qualitative methodology is non-generalizable, right? And I think that's one of the main pitfalls that a lot of researchers walk into, is that they think simply because they've analyzed a lot of narrative data or even gone through some form of administrative evaluation, that this now equals what the organization's risk is. The other methodology is to obtain insight into how employees and suppliers and people view the organization, which is part of a stakeholder approach to ethics. So if your employees hate your company, that is important information. If they feel they don't trust their leadership, if they feel that no one is talking about ethics, then it might be very problematic. So if you pair these two techniques with one another, you actually have a very much more powerful evaluation tool. And it needs to happen. We need to start looking at integrating survey data, especially longitudinal survey data, with narrative analysis, and then using these tools that are at our disposal, such as large language models and others, to actually integrate that data into something that's usable for us in a practical sense. So yes, we have actually done that. We've also built a virtual ethics officer based on all of our material. This virtual ethics officer can help you develop a code of ethics, can assist you in building a whistleblowing policy, can help you to structure an ethics risk assessment in your organization, for example. But it still needs to pass our certification exam. We'll see if it can do so. We're actually going to examine it as we would a person. And if it does pass, then I think we're in a situation where it can help to not only guide, but also to measure in organizations.
Thank you so much. When you said a virtual compliance officer, there's a certain picture that jumped into my head. So I'd be really interested to see what that looks like. So we look forward to that being launched. And I think I don't see any additional questions in the chat. So just to the participants, if there's any more questions, please ask them now. We still have a couple of minutes with all the amazing speakers here being on. I think it's very interesting looking at all of the participants and the presentations of tools that we kind of have a very nice sort of coverage in terms of potential needs, right? Some of them are more aimed at the sort of collaborative aspect. Some of them are more sort of practical on the app, quick, being able to kind of get things started. But then also the link between AFIN and TI, some of the TI topics where there's overlap, but in looking at it from a slightly different perspective. And then obviously, Paul, also from your side, the ability to kind of really then dig into measure and trying to kind of capture where organizations are. And then Nils looking at the more sort of futuristic potential that's in there. So I just wanted to kind of summarize from that perspective and just say how I think important it is to capture all of this and somehow find a way to make this available beyond the individual institutions, because it can end up being hidden on our website somewhere and be quite difficult to be found by the people who might need it the most. So I think this is also a bit of a takeaway from our side of just finding ways in which we can bring all of that together and communicate cross organizations. And so we're really happy and so glad that you were all willing to come on today and share all of your tools. And we'll definitely will also follow up on sharing that. And also, I mean, as we've seen, I think 3 people mentioned new tools already that are currently being developed. So it's definitely an ongoing process that we all want to be involved and keep on top of. Wanted to just open for the last couple of minutes if there's any comments or questions from the other speakers. I don't see any more questions from the participants. So just wanted to give that opportunity to our speakers if they wanted to mention anything or give any last sort of summarizing comments. Yeah, Carolina?
Just one small comment from my side, because in our last regional conference in Chile 2 weeks ago, the topic was digital tools, and we discussed a lot how important it is to put the people in the center of developing these digital tools. Now, we were discussing a lot of cases where also these tools were programming in a way that very quickly discriminate, that very quickly were used exactly for the opposite that was supposed to do, even where they were supposed to work for transparency and integrity, were using it exactly in the opposite way. So I just wanted to highlight this very important point on not losing the human part of the digital tools as well, especially for anti-corruption and integrity.
Thank you, Carolina. Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Any final comments from the others? Yes, Paul, over to you.
Yes, I just wanted to say, Caroline, I think that is very important. I think you need to make sure, right, that whatever tools you use, they do what they're supposed to do and not anything else, right? So it also determines how you train them. We often use this analogy. If you had a large robot in your garden and you told it to fetch the remote in your house, right? It will break right through the house, kill the dog to try to get the remote. unless you tell it not to do so, right? You need to say, don't step on the dog, don't break the house. You have to kind of give it those parameters. And I think that's where we are currently running into some interesting questions is, so if you over parameterize it, are there weird things that can happen? And so that is something that I think we all are learning at our peril together. But it always, I think it comes back to what Nils said, garbage in, garbage out. If you don't train it properly, if you don't provide it with correct information where a human sits behind that, remember, it does not have empathy. It does what you tell it to do. So you need to use it responsibly, I think.
Thank you, Paul. Kaunain, would you want to come in to wrap us up?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I could not agree more with what has been discussed, and I absolutely enjoyed this session completely. I think one of the two thoughts that come to my mind, of course, we use digital tools a lot, but at the same time, we have to start in many cases from very rudimentary tools that we need to put into place. And I think, as you rightly mentioned, Paul, as well, like we run the risk of overcomplicating matters and making compliance a tick box exercise, and that is not something that we should do, and that's what we should try to avoid through everything that we're putting forward in the business integrity space. So yeah, but I would really like to end on this one finding that we had from a 2018 help desk paper that we did, that you can also access through the Anti-Corruption Knowledge Hub. We did an analysis of companies out there, and we found that more than 50% of those companies that had invested in integrity were actually profitable in the long term. So integrity pays. So, whatever tools you want to use, make use of it, but know that investing in integrity is also profitable for long-term success. And I think that's the crux of all of these interventions, trying to get to that.
Super, perfect way to wrap us up. I don't think Nils I don't see him on camera, so I assume he's not able to connect back in, but we oh, no, he is. Nils, would you like to just give final comments if the train still allows?
I don't know if no, I just want to say, it was really fun to be with you, though in a scattered connection. I look forward to staying in touch. Really interesting discussion.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And again, also from our side, thank you to everybody who linked in. Thank you for the questions. Thank you to all the speakers. I think our big takeaway really is that building of the community of practice in this space, both, utilizing all of the knowledge from everybody here, all of the different organizations who are in this space when you're building or developing those tools, but then also, of course, the networks that we have in order to ensure that they're being implemented effectively and also being sort of continuously updated as things move on while keeping the human at the center, which I couldn't agree more with. So thank you so much, everyone.